views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Let me be your lighthouse so I can show you the way. Let me be your shining light, I'll keep you from drifting away. I'm the one that makes you try when...
This is part 2. Last week we did part 1, and this is all about transgendering and all the pros and cons. There's more cons than pros, I tell you that now. The liberals are fighting back as well. From last week, we talked about the gays against groomers and all that.
Yeah, they want hands off the children.
Yeah.
This is not a place for children. They should not be even informed about any of this, because when you tell a young child that they can grow up to be anything they want, including the opposite sex, that's very confusing.
Yeah. Why?
So it confuses the child. So yeah, they don't want this out there. It's wrong. And especially young girls who are struggling with same-sex attraction. They're being told, nope, those feelings mean you're a male, and the only way to deal with it is to transition. And exactly. Same-sex attraction and gender confusion are two separate issues.
Sad, isn't it?
Very, very. That it's destroying families, and the harm it has done
families too.
Pardon?
What'd you say?
Oh, and of course the young people who have been coerced into this. There's a high rate of regret. Nobody knows the exact numbers, but there are a lot. The numbers are growing daily of those who are choosing to detransition, and they all have a lot of their stories are the same. This and all of them say the same thing. This transitioning did not help.
It made things worse.
Yes, because most of them are coming out on the other side with very damaged bodies. They have missing body parts because they had doctors who were more than happy to take those body parts off, even though they were healthy.
We have a picture, Miss Dr. Gallagher.
Yes. Yes, she's something else. She used to practice in Indiana. A little over 3 years ago, she moved her practice to Florida. And she used to remove, and she's, as far as I know, she's still doing it. She would remove healthy breasts from young girls and then pose and take pictures with them right after the surgeries and post them on her Facebook page. And she has since, and she might have been doing it beforehand, but definitely while she's in Florida where she practices now, expanded her presence on social media to TikTok, where she calls herself the Tit Wizard, and the procedure of the double mastectomy. But there are several doctors who would do it. A lot of them aren't on social media the way she is. Unfortunately, though, she's not alone. Florida did ban this practice. They had a little bit different procedure that they went through the medical board last year. And then they followed up this year with legislation. So hopefully she will not be practicing this type of procedure on young women or the other procedures. She also does procedures on other parts of the body, we'll say.
Reminds me of get after our children in the womb and get after our children after they're born.
Yes. Absolutely.
That's not logical. That is so not right. Satan's at work here. They want to really muck up human lives and not have them survive.
I agree. Absolutely. These, and I want to be clear, and I know you feel the same way. it is very painful what these individuals are experiencing. However, it is not compassionate to affirm a lie to somebody and say, yes, you can change sex. That is not compassionate. Walking beside these people and getting them the help they need to help them learn to live a healthy life and appreciate their body is the way to do it. And there's going to be, just like throughout history, a very, very tiny number of people who won't find their dysphoria resolve itself into adulthood. So we have got to find a way to walk beside these people in a loving manner. It's not that people like to say that those of us who have been fighting with legislation that we're hateful and we're killing trans kids, like, no, we want the best care for these children.
Yes.
That's what we want. You don't cut off body parts for something that's in the mind. That's not the way medicine is supposed to work.
Medicine's all mocked up too.
Exactly. Oh yeah, this is ridiculous that we've ever gotten to a point that any of this is acceptable. But that we love these. Oh, absolutely. But the message is we love all of these people and we want what is best for them. That's to lead healthy lives.
They don't care about other humans they mutilate.
Pardon?
They don't care about who they hurt as long as they get their dollars.
Absolutely. And the doctors are making huge money by performing these surgeries, and pharma. Once you put a kid on puberty blockers and then they go to wrong sex hormones, they are medical patients for the rest of their lives. They will be taking those medications for the rest of their lives. Puberty blockers cost anywhere from $30,000 plus for this. And then I don't know the cost of hormones, but I know that by the time you add up all the surgeries and the hormones throughout the life, it's well over $1 million. So
dollar signs is what these surgeons see.
And the pharmacies,
the
pharmaceutical companies, they're making huge money on puberty blockers and wrong sex hormones.
A woman in Canada who went through transition is now suing her surgeon who operated on her. I wonder how that would turn out.
And unfortunately, that's what it's going to take. It's going to take a lot of lawsuits against these doctors. They're saying Tavistock, which we talked about last week, that was shut down this spring, that over 1,000 families, I don't know where it's gone, but over 1,000 families were coming together to sue them for what had been done to their children. In the United States, we have some brave individuals such as Chloe Cole, who is probably one of the most famous detransitioners. She was transitioned as a child. At 13, her parents were told if they didn't transition her, she would commit suicide. They did put her on puberty blockers, wrong sex hormones, and I believe she had a double mastectomy at age 15. Of course, she's out of it. By age 18, she was out testifying to legislation, telling about what had happened to her and how it happened to her and how wrong it was and it needed to be stopped. She is now suing, and there are more that are coming on board. Unfortunately, it's been difficult in the past for some of the others, especially adults like Scott Nugent, who tried to sue the doctor that performed Scott's phalloplasty. Scott was not able to sue this gentleman, even though he had multiple suits against him in California. Scott likes to say, these Scott's words, that Scott was this doctor's first victim in Texas.
With this system, the law system here in the United States and my country, Canada, it all should be redone, done right for the sake of the people, not for the sake of money.
Exactly. Like I said, this will go down in history as the worst medical scandal in history. So they're calling it the sexual lobotomy, even though it's not. Like I said, sexual attraction is different. It's not about sexual attraction, but yeah, it's a shame.
And legislation, help, not harm, bill.
Yes,
Okay.
that's our bill in Indiana. It
Mhm.
was just passed on written into law, signed by the governor into law on April 5th. It is set to go into effective as of July 1st. Now, that's assuming that the court does not order an injunction, because of course, within 5 minutes, basically, of the governor signing the bill, the ACLU was at the courthouse.
ACLU, got
Good old ACLU. But I do want to say that this was an effort that took 3 or 4 years. We have at least 16 states in the United States this year alone. 2 years ago, we couldn't get anybody to touch it. And we had Alabama and Arkansas who came on the scene in the last 2 years and passed bills to prohibit the medical transitioning of children. Now, some of these, like our own state, first had bills to protect women's sports, which is fantastic. That's all absolutely needed as well. It's not anti-trans. Nobody's stopping trans kids from participating in sports. They always have the right to participate in the sports of their biological sex. This is about protecting females. As far as the medical side of it and not allowing medical transitioning of minors, for example, 21 and 22, Senator Dennis Cruz in the state of Indiana was the one senator who stood up to put a bill out. Things have changed over the last couple of years. He retired. Senator Johnson took on the bill this year, and he had great success in getting it signed in. But we had multiple, just like across. This is the same thing we've seen across the United States. We went from not having any bills to over 150 bills addressing medicalization, women's sports, parental rights, that have been brought up and being brought to the forefront. And so Arkansas and Alabama were the first two states. And this year alone, we've had 16 that have already passed these bans on medical transitioning for minors. And we have several more states, and we expect Ohio to be joining us very soon.
Had a girl.
Yes, I'm very thankful to Senator Johnson and all the others like Representative King, Representative Davis, that fought hard for this bill, and all of our detransitioners and trans allies that came to testify.
IU and Purdue universities. Tell me about them.
Yes, when I first started on this journey and I was speaking with legislators, and I'm talking 3-4 years ago, some of the first words out of their mouths to me was, well, I don't know that I want to touch the medical stuff, but I tell you what, we should be able to address any schools that are promoting this, that are state-funded schools. We can remove funding. IU has a gender clinic on campus. Purdue, I think, used to provide hormones on campus, but apparently now that's all been moved off campus, but they assist the kids in getting to them. I have spoken with parents who's had no idea about their children's feelings, and all of a sudden, I have 2 of them that were at IU, that the school sent them down the road and are providing them with hormones. Some of the insurance that's provided through the school will pay for. Yeah, but the problem is the parents have no recourse.
Parents have the right to defend and save their children from all this type of twisted harm.
I agree, but once they hit 18, and that's one of the, it used to be that the parents were still responsible, they had some rights. That is no longer the case. And Purdue and IU are very big about the use of pronouns in the classroom, all of this, celebrating it. But I need to be clear, it's everywhere. Unfortunately, you will even find it on Christian campuses. But this business of our tax dollars paying for gender clinics and providing hormones and paperwork, asking about preferred names and pronouns and all that has no business. Our schools are just like our lower level schools. They're there to educate and promote critical thinking, not indoctrinate.
Not grooming them.
Exactly.
It's sad. The Biden administration.
Yeah, they're horrible. And for him to stand up and sit there and promote that the best thing for a child is to affirm them is just beyond me. And then he claims to be a Christian. Even the National Institute of Health said that social transition, which is allowing a child to adopt a name and maybe change their clothes or their hairstyle to present socially, so no medical, just the social transitioning is not a neutral psychosocial event. It actually leads to more harmful, such as medicalization. So more organizations are coming out that are doing the actual systematic reviews and looking at all the data and reviewing whether or not these studies have met criteria. Because one of the things in our legislation, that legislative hearings, that was pointed out, and the doctors were asked, all these studies that are being presented that, these kids are going to commit suicide or that their mental health improves, when pushed on it and asked what was the quality of these studies, it was the people on the pro-trans side said they couldn't answer the question. Well, I don't know. I didn't look into it. But the doctors on who were for our bill were able to stand up and say, no, these have all been rated low quality. So there is no real data to support the other side. It's usually just the typical answer when you're speaking to people like that are pro-transitioning, especially of minors, is they say something, therefore it is, there is no discussion. And if you dare to question it, you are hateful, you are transphobic, and you are flat out abusive. There is no dialogue there. And there is nothing wrong with asking questions. That's part of the medical process. That's how we learn about medicine.
If you don't ask, you don't learn.
Exactly. But no one's allowed to ask the questions. They're just shut down. And it's always done, almost always done with, they keep saying that those of us who are standing up and saying this is wrong to do this to a child, we're speaking. But their answer is to stand up, yell profanities, drown out the people. This happened in the State House. It happens on the street.
Right.
If you go up and ask a person that's holding a sign, they'll hold up signs like "Quit killing trans kids." But yet when you ask them who died, they can't answer the question. They have no answer because all they want to do is yell and scream. Billboard Chris, who's been going across the United States and Canada and goes in front of gender clinics or goes on college campuses and wears billboards talking about puberty blockers and how dangerous they are, tries to have dialogue. And 99% of the time, he cannot get somebody from the other side to have a dialogue with him. All they do is come up to him, scream profanities at him. He has been attacked physically multiple times. There's no discussion.
Just like abortion, you try to say they're human babies, and they say, "Oh no, they're not." How can you prove that? And they don't have an answer.
Right.
And also, we got one more topic to discuss. It's called no contact. What is that, dear?
Yes, and this is something that has actually been going on for a long time. They just now have come out into the open with it. For example, most kids, like our daughter, it's the first thing that happens when these kids who are hurting get caught up in this, especially, and a lot of them are doing it on social media. It is in the schools too, but it's feeding from, or in their friend groups, it's also feeding, but a lot of them are feeding off of social media, Hollywood and whatever. And the first thing that they're told is, okay, you don't fit in, but we love you. The answer is to come this will fix you being trans. But you need to understand that your parents are the enemy. Your families, anybody who doesn't immediately affirm you, you're the enemy. And the first thing they do is put a wedge in there. Pardon?
Shunning.
Yes, you shun your family or anyone else who doesn't automatically agree with you, because there is no middle road. There's no compromise. It's all about how that individual is, and they have to get their affirmation from outside of this. So people aren't going to validate them. They have to be validated. Instead of learning to validate themselves from within, they have to validate from outside. And if those individuals, if someone's not going to do it, then they have to cut them off. So I know a multitude of parents, especially as you get into the older teenage years, early 20s, but it's even starting younger. Now they're just flat out doing it in the open, no contact. And they're even influencing kids as 11 years old. It's kind of hard to really think about how can an 11-year-old go no contact with their parent, because the parent still has a lot of control at that point, but it's happening. These kids are falling under this guise. I mean, it's everywhere, no contact, no contact. So they're getting desperate because now they're admitting to what they've been doing for years. And it's very, very sad.
People are starting to wise up.
Yes, they are. And it's hard because a lot of these individuals, and especially, for example, maybe they're in high school and they've been socially transitioned for a couple of years, and they realize as they mature a little bit more that it's really not what they want. And I've read stories of this. But they don't know how to backtrack, how to turn around, because it's embarrassing. I've told everybody that this is the way I am. I've demanded they call me by this new name. I don't want that anymore, but I'm going to look like a fool. And it's very heartbreaking. And of course, for those who have medicalized, it's even harder because of the regret and shame. And for many of them who have estranged themselves from their families. But I have heard stories from people from individuals who had, and they talk about, yeah, I treated my family terribly for years because I had this family. But you know what? Once I decided to detransition, this glitter family over here, this whole community, not only turned their backs on me, but they treated me horribly. The doctors also, even endocrinologists, are telling them that they were crazy. But they say, guess who was there to welcome me with open arms? My family. Now, that's not always the case. There are probably some kids whose families didn't, but I have heard multiple cases, and I've even spoken to some of these detransitioners. My family was there for me. And every family I know that is estranged from their child is standing there with their arms wide open, waiting for their child to come back.
You know what this reminds me of? Being in a cult.
There are folks who say that this has a lot of similarities, such as the no contact.
Right.
It's you believe as me or we're done. And yeah, there's no debate. There's no critical thinking.
It's black and white, no gray.
Exactly. And I mean, and the problem is when you have one side that's able to stand up and say things like the suicide death, or they stand up and say only 1% of people who will detransition. But when you go and look at their studies, they haven't really even talked to detransitioners, or a lot of people even like Kiara Bell, who brought the lawsuit against Tavistock Children's Gender Clinic and was the first step in helping get it shut down. She wouldn't have been included in that. But yet there was a study that was just released within the last 6 months. It was only a 5-year study. But what they found was those who started on wrong sex hormones, hormonal replacement therapy, within 4 years, 30% of those who had gone on stopped taking them. If you have any other type of medical condition, that 30% are stopping the treatment, that's a major red flag. But yet, that one kind of gets ignored, like a lot of things. We have a media and even our medical associations and those that write papers are very biased in what they allow to be put out there. So, and just watching Reddit has a detransition website and our site, and you have to be a detransitioner to get on there. In 2 years, they have doubled in size. They're almost 50,000 people, and every week I check it, and it jumps by at least 100.
That is sick.
Yeah. So the detransit, this is a whole group of people that need our help, and they are in need of psychological. Pardon?
They need love, education.
Yes, and
passion.
Exactly. They need all of that, and they need psychological help because they realize that they had issues that most of them say I had issues I didn't deal with. The trans like to say that the radical trans like to say that no, these people were bullied into detransitioning. If you go over to the study where you actually have detransitioners, discrimination was at the bottom of the list for the reason for detransitioning. The overwhelming majority said that transitioning did not help and they had underlying issues they had not dealt with. And so they need help with that. And then they have medical issues because of the damage they've done to their body. Some that, like I said, they can't put body parts back on, but the damage done from puberty blockers and wrong sex hormones is tremendous.
For these kids, what hope can we give them? We have about 2 or 3 minutes left of this episode. How can we give them hope?
There is always hope. We're here to stand beside all of our kids. Those are beginning to question themselves, but we've got to change the narrative. The narrative has got to be, we love you. We can disagree on points. I don't want to do anything to harm you or not be compassionate, but I expect the same back from you if they're a little bit older. In other words, if we're referring to pronouns and things like that, you also need to respect me as well. It doesn't mean that I don't love you, that I don't care about you. We need to give loving support to the younger children, and help them learn how to move through their natural puberty so that they can work on. And one detransitioner put it, give somebody time to grow up and grow through their problems. And then for those who have gone down this and are coming out of it, we need to stand beside them, but we need medical and mental health professionals that are going to be there to help them with their physical and mental health issues. And like I said, just all of us to be there and know that they are loved, that they truly are loved. They just couldn't see it.
Yes. And that's what the parents have to do, realize what's going on.
And that's it, because a lot of times it's behind there. And another part of the hope is there are many people of detransition who have lived this way, who lived in the lifestyle for many years. One of them is Laura Perry. She lived the lifestyle for at least 10 years. She came out of it in her 30s, and she had pretty much had everything removed. She got married last year to a man that she met, and is very happy. And she's done a lot. She wrote a book called Transgender to Transformed, I believe is the name of it. Lovely, lovely woman. But there's always hope. Walt Heyer, like I said, there are many other people who have come out, and a lot of young people like Helena. These people are finding their way and finding a way to a very happy life. Well, I can't thank you enough for allowing our voices to be heard. And it makes a huge difference. And I really appreciate you, Patty.
Thank you. We appreciate you too, dear.
Oh, thank you. Oh, we love you too. And God bless you.
God bless you. And I'll get in touch with you again. So
sounds wonderful. I hope to see you soon.
Yes. Peace be with you. Thank you, audience, for joining us. And thank you, Justine Mercedes. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, dear.
You too, kiddo.
Bye-bye.
Godspeed, my love, until we meet again. You're always in my heart and every dream. Don't let this time apart give in to all our fears. God will keep us close from up above. So until we meet again, Godspeed, my love. God is with us always, and for the rest of